Welcome to my journey through the Bible. This will be applications you can apply to your life and a little more in depth about the chapter. We are in 2 Kings chapter 6, verses 1 through 33. Now, we see that Elijah was with the sons of the prophets. He was teaching them and he was working along beside of them. He was helping them to find a place that they could dwell. And of course, while they are working, one of the man loses the top of his axe. The head of it falls off into the water. And he is crying for his master, Elijah, to pray to God and to help him out in this situation. Now, in this custom, if you lost something or you broke something, you were to give them 20% more of what that thing was worth in order to make up for the damage that you had caused. Now, this son of the prophets probably was not making very much money, if any at all, because they were still trying to find them a place to dwell, a place to live, a place where they could be of service to their people. And then we see that Elijah asks him, where did it fall into the water at? And then he throws the stick in there and prays to God. God allowed the head of that axe to float up to the water. That was all solely God. And if God cared enough to have the axe head raised to the top of the water, how much more does God care about you and your life and your problems that you are facing? God was with the king of Israel even when he did not obey God's commands. God had used Elijah to keep the king of Israel away from an ambush. And then, of course, the king of Syria was so mad. He wanted to know who was a traitor, who gave out information, who leaked this information. And once he had found out it was the man of God, he sent his armies after them, as if he took out the man of God, he would stop the control of God. And that just was not ever going to happen. But Elijah could see God's army protecting him. But the young man that was with Elijah could only see the army that was about to attack them. And he was scared. And I think that's what happens in our life a lot of times. The closer we are to God, the more we start to see his plans unfold. We can kind of start to see where God is working in our life and in the lives of others. But when we're away from God, when we don't have that prayer life and that study life and that connection with God, then all we see is the problem that is in front of us. And life is full of problems. There's always one problem after another. And many times while you're trying to work on putting out one fire and you've almost got it put out, there's another one raging out of control. And we need to stop looking at the fire and see God in the midst of that. Like I said, we have to stay close to God in order to be able to see his plans. And of course, God does not reveal his plans to us all at once, because we would become overwhelmed with all the things that we would need to do. So God shows us things in stages so that we can handle it a little bit of a time and that we don't get overwhelmed. And there are some problems that we have to take it day by day, maybe hour by hours, and in extreme cases, maybe we have to take it minute by minute. So we need to look through the eyes of faith to see God's plan. And if you're saying, I can't see God's plan, then it may be that your spiritual eyesight is hindered. And it's not God's power that is being hindered. Now, Elijah had led these men that had came to attack him. He led them into the midst of their enemy. And then, of course, the king of Israel was thinking, oh, do I kill all of them and I do away with my enemy? Only Elijah said, no. You are to feed them, give them food, give them something to drink, and then you send them back home. How easy is it for you to offer food and something to drink to your enemies? Now, this was God showing his power. This was God showing his mercy. God had gave the king of Israel mercy. He wanted the king of Israel to give his enemies mercy. God gives me and you grace every single day. So he wants us to give that same grace to other people that we come in contact with. And we have to be sure that we don't take credit for something that God is doing. And sometimes it can be hard for us to fully understand everything that goes on in life around us. This famine was so great that it shows that people were eating their own children in order to survive. And once the king of Israel had heard this news from this woman, he was angry and he was upset. He was probably disgusted at the whole thing that was going on, and he looked for somebody to blame. So he wanted to blame Elijah, the man of God. Let's blame him. If we do away with him, then that'll do away with this famine, which he missed the whole point. A lot of times it means we have to humble ourselves and we have to pray for God to God. We have to ask for that forgiveness in our life and for things that we have done wrong. We have to make sure that our lives and our plans are lining up with the plans that God has for us. And I think a lot of times people will look at Christians and they want the impossible from us, and they want to try to question God. Like, okay, if you believe in God, why do you have problems? Well, I have problems because I need to learn lessons. I need to learn discipline in my own life. And they'll also say, well, if your God is real, then why did he allow this to happen or that to happen? Because this was bad. Well, God gives us free will. And when God gives us free wills, then sometimes people choose to do the wrong thing. And when we choose to do the wrong thing, many times it's going to hurt somebody that is innocent, that is in the crossfire of whatever it is that we chose to do. And there's always going to be people that are going to trip you up, that's going to try to point out where you've done something wrong. Well, that's okay. Accept it because you're only human, and then try not to make that mistake again. And the only difference that is between a believer and a non-believer is grace. When we make a mistake, then we have grace. We look to God for our answers and for our salvation. But when you do not have God, when you do not believe in God, then you are still looking for answers and looking for worth in your life. May God be with you in everything and every way.